Defending was Santos Laciar of Argentina, and the challenger was Steve Muchoki from Kenya. Laciar was the fighter who floored Charlie Maigret on the opening round of their 1980 contest, but the Englishman finally beat him. Now, Laciar was dominant throughout the first 10 rounds last night against Muchoki, and we join it now for the 11th round.
So it's round 11 then in the WBA Flyweight Championship. Santos Laciar from Argentina has really piled into Steve Muchoki of Kenya, who boxes out of Denmark now the whole time, and certainly Muchoki has been gasping a bit in the last few rounds. He just hasn't had the power to keep little Laciar off. Laciar, the man who fought Charlie Maigret at the Albert Hall, had him down in the first round, but then was outpointed in a 10 rounds, very exciting fight. And I saw him win the WBA Championship for the first time in Soweto, South Africa. Now that really took some doing, and he just punched the heart out of Peter Matabula, and that seems to be what he's trying to do here with the other African. It's been a tremendous pace all the way through. And Laciar piles in, switches punches, head to body. Determined little character, this one. He's only 23. The referee is Richard Steele, an ex-cop now living in Las Vegas and working in a casino. I get the impression that Muchoki would think now is probably a feat if I could stay the scheduled 15 rounds. But Laciar has been in top gear the whole time. He's been able to accept the taps on the nose coming in from Muchoki because the power hasn't been there. Gets a bit rough at close quarters, a bit untidy. But Laciar pulls away as quickly as he can because that's his game. Crowding in close. And really there's distress signals coming from Muchoki now, wiping his eye, holding on. Yes, I can't see a cut, but he's got a problem there. May have been caught with the thumb of a glove or something. Laciar now no respite as his cornerman, Tito Lectori, the promoter from Argentina, calling him on to stay right on top of the challenger, give him no chance at all. Muchoki never been to this part of the world before. In the 11th round, usually takes his opponents out quickly, and he's only had 10 fights. But he's making that obvious that he's got trouble with the left eye. I think there is a cut there over Muchoki's left eye. Even as close as we are, it's difficult to see. And there's certainly a cut around Laciar's right eye. So they're working there. Yes, there is a cut on Matabula's left eye. Al Sivani, American trainer. Been around, he was with Floyd Patterson. And he's tried everything to try and get Muchoki into this fight, but he just hasn't had strong enough punches. And this little fella kept going the whole time. A real genuine old pro with 60 fights, and he's lost only 6, and he's drawn 8. So round 12, and they both got matching set of cut eyes, but certainly Steve Muchoki in trouble at the end of that round when the American referee Richard Steele went over and examined it, and the American trainer for Muchoki probably said, no, I can cope with it. But certainly Muchoki's been unable to cope with Santos Laciar. Doesn't have the strength to keep him off. And you really do see the marked difference between success in amateur boxing and the hard professional world. All 3 officials score here, but for them it must have been a joyride scoring so far, because Laciar has done all the work. And really, there's always a chance now that the Argentine can pile it on, particularly with that cut around the Kenyan's eye, but he could stop him. But I suppose Muchoki's saying it'll be a feat now if I can stay 15 rounds and hope to fight another day. But since the referee visited the African's corner, I would have thought that he only needs an excuse for him to dive in. We've seen distress signals from Muchoki for quite a few rounds now, with this little fellow piling in the whole time. He takes such a good punch, Laciar. And the Danes really have remained as neutral as they can. They cheered in a few brief moments when Muchoki tried to get on top there. Well, Al-Savani in the Kenyan's corner must have done a good job on that cut. It was difficult to spot, but if the referee visited the corner, it must have been bad enough. But he can always call for the opinion of the doctor, but he, in fact, has got the jurisdiction to stop the fight at any time. So the British flyweights who can watch this or know exactly what they're up against for this little tough guy. And so far, we haven't staged the World Boxing Association Championship in Britain. Members of the WBA, but we staged the World Boxing Council Championships there. And the crowd now, I suspect now, actually turning their cheers or applause, as they do here. It's not a slow hand clap, it's an applaud hand clap for the champion. So 13th round, is it going to be unlucky for one? Laciar now just got to bide his time. He might try and stop Muchoki. Be a good victory for him, but even if it goes 15 at this stage, there's certainly no chance of Muchoki winning it. And he's grabbing for dear life and getting a bit upset. He's looking at the eye and warning him for a butt. That's a public warning. He's been doing it all the time, and that's the first time that you've actually been able to see that injury. And he really is blowing hard, Steve Muchoki. Remember that success is raw as a 3-round amateur when he was world champion. And this must have seemed like a marathon of punching. Well, I must say, little Laciar doesn't stand off and admire his work. He still gets stuck in. He'd love to try and stop this fellow. He got the championship the hard way. He won it first in South Africa. Certainly, referee Richard Steele trying to give Muchoki every chance, but Laciar denying him that. And really, if he's not going to throw punches back, there's not much point in it going 15 rounds. Muchoki sometimes gets a gasping for a second breath just when you think he's going to go. He manages to come back, but it's noticeable now that he has started to slow. They started at such a fast pace in this fight, but it's taken its toll now. And no matter how much Muchoki's trained, you can't train to take punches for 15 rounds like this without really feeling battle-weary. And he's getting through to him, Laciar, the whole time. He just needs one concentrated spell, and I'm positive that the referee would stop it. He's wiping the blood away from that eye. Laciar ignoring his injury. He's not the greatest single puncher in the world, Laciar, but he throws enough to bring his man down, mate. And he's looked as though he's going to try and do it now. He knows that Muchoki can't go anywhere once they're on the ropes. They sometimes give too much leeway in a championship. They won't here. His legs have just disobeyed him, and Laciar said, well, I'm entitled to keep punching, but referee Richard Steele, quite rightly in the 13th round, and perhaps not before time, is saying, no, the eye injury is bad enough, and this fellow's not in a condition to defend himself, so Santos Laciar has retained the World Boxing Association 8-stone championship in the 13th round. And who knows, we might even see Kelvin Smart, Keith Wallace, Charlie Maggery in with this fellow another time. So the replay now will probably see where the Kenyan's legs start to buckle. He's had enough by now. He'd had enough for a few rounds, I would think. And Laciar senses it. Side of the head to punch. That one was on the point. There it is. No chance at all. Couldn't control the legs and just a sitting duck. And luckily, that only just glanced past the jaw. And Machoki has nowhere to run. He turns to the corner, and that was it. Our little fellow Laciar does deserve his plaudits. He's a very competent little champion, and he continually wins away from home.
So Machoki, you really